Hello, Keith Rucker at VintageMachinery.org. Well guys, we're going to do something a little bit different this week for a video. I'm going to switch mediums a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of a woodworking project, believe it or not. So I don't have my woodworking shop set up out here completely yet, but I do have a few tools in here. And basically a friend of mine asked if I could help with this, and he's basically wanting to have a couple of cutting boards made that he's going to use for Christmas presents, and asked if I could help out. So, and what we're working with is I've got this piece of walnut butcher block, I guess you'd call it. And what this is my friend actually just had new countertops put in their house. They're doing some remodeling. They put in these walnut countertops, and this was a cutout where one of the sinks were, and he wanted to salvage this and use it and give it to I think one of them to his daughter, and maybe another one to his wife for Christmas presents. So I said, yeah, it sounds like a fun little project. I'd be glad to help out. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to go about doing this, basically salvaging a piece of wood. So here's our blank we're going to start with, and the top looks nice. This was actually the top side. You know, one thing that was a little disappointing on this is that the back side of it doesn't look all that great. We got a lot of knots and tear outs and whatever. You could tell when they were putting this thing together they were gluing up one good side, but that shouldn't be a big problem. We may have to do something to deal with some of these little holes and stuff in here. And I'll say too, this piece was about 1.5 inches thick when I got it, and it was a little bit too bulky, so we actually did plane it down, and planing it actually improved this backside. It looked really bad until we got down into it a little bit deeper, but still there's quite a few defects in here. But to start with, what I need to do is he wants me to make 2 cutting boards out of this, and basically we're going to cut it, you know, in half, square up the edges, and have 2 boards cut out of this. Now, for whatever reason, they went in here and they put in these big holes in here when they jigsawed out the top. I'm not exactly sure why, because you don't need a hole that big to start a jigsaw hole, and you certainly don't need one in all 4 corners, but they did, so that's going to limit our size a little bit. But first thing I really got to do, guys, is I need to get a straight edge down one side so that I can saw this over on the table saw. This was cut with a jigsaw, so this is a regular edge. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to my joiner, and we're going to work on getting that down flat and parallel with the other lines in here that are going across. So let's go over to the joiner and get that done. So this is my Crescent 16-inch joiner, wood joiner. One machine I've had for quite some time now. Really, really love this machine. Haven't been able to use it much lately since I haven't had my wood shop set up. But for those that don't know, if you're more in the metalworking side, a joiner is one of the most important tools in a wood shop, at least in my opinion. And basically what you can use it for is to get a edge square and flat. It's kind of like a wood planer. But instead of thicknessing the board, it's going to make a surface flat. And you know, a planer is really not a flattener, it's a thicknesser. If your board's not flat when you put it in there, it's going to come out not flat when you run it through the planer. So you need to get your boards flat before you do anything else, and that's where the wood joiner comes in. And that's where it's nice to have a wide joiner like this, where you can actually flatten the face of a board in addition to just doing the edges. Now in this case we're only going to be doing the edge, and I'm just going to put this up against the fence like such. We're going to run this down a couple of times. I may have to make some adjustments to get it kind of going straight, but anyway, we're going to just shave it down and get a nice flat square edge down that side. So let's fire up and do it. It's not cutting it all down here, it's cutting up there. We're going to have to take several passes to get it flat, but it looks like it's running pretty parallel. So let's do a couple more passes here and see what happens. So let's look at where we're at. We got this, you can kind of see the glue joint here, and I'm trying to get this edge parallel to that, and we're a little bit thicker on this side than we are this side. So how are we going to straighten that out? Well, the way I'm going to do that is I measured that thickness down there, and I actually made a shim that I'm just going to put back here on this back corner. We're going to run it back down there again. And what will happen is that it's going to take more off of the front than it will the back. Now, we'll stop once before we get, in fact, it probably won't cut all the way down to this depth. And then the next time we come through, should be on a flat edge. It's going to come to some point, I'm guessing somewhere along in here, and we should be able to just take it right down and be nice and parallel. So that's the game plan. Let's fire the joiner back up and we'll straighten that edge out. All right, it's finished cutting right there. Should have straightened that out, and I'm sitting here looking. It looks good. So one more pass now, and I think we should be nice and flat. All right. So now that we've got a good straight edge that's parallel with the board, we're just going to go ahead and put it on the table saw. We're going to rip off the back side back here, and then I'll flip it around and actually rip this side to the proper width that I'm going to be looking for. And I think it's going to be about 18 inches across here. I'm basically just trying to cut these little corners out where they drilled the holes in here. So I've got my fence set, and we'll make our first pass. Come take another look at it, and then I cut it down to the final width. All right, get the other side here. Tell you what. So you wanted these to be pretty much as big as they could be. So I'm going to basically just kind of cut this right down the middle or close to it. There's actually a couple of defects. There's a line right here cut, and there's a screw hole down here, and they're in line with one another. So I'm just going to rip this in half here, and then we'll go from there to come up with the actual width. So, and to do this, I'm using my miter gauge here to set it to 90 degrees, and we'll just cut it right off. All right, well, this is coming right along. These look nice. These are roughly 12 by 18, which is kind of a standard size for a cutting board, and I think it's going to work out fine. You know, ideally, I wish the grain was running the long way on this, but it just wouldn't work out that way with the material that we have, so we're going to go with what we have. Now, my buddy that asked me to help him with this, he wants there to be a juice groove around here, so basically just a little indention in here, so if there's anything on the board, it will go into that and not run off the edge. And probably round over the edges as well. So a little bit of work on the router table. Let me get that set up, and we'll route in that juice groove in that round over. I've got my router table now set up to cut this little bead around here. So we're going to make this bead go in 1 inch all the way around the diameter, circumference of this, I guess. And I've already got it set here in the router table. Now what I'm using is, this is a 1/2 inch core box bit, which is basically just a radius, a 1/2 inch radius. And the way we're going to do this is I've got some marks back here that I just drew on my fence. I'm going to come in, we'll drop this down on here, and basically the edges of my board will go from there up to this mark over on this side. And we'll just rotate the board around, do all 4 sides, and hopefully it's going to come out right. That's the game plan. Let's get it done. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drop it over a little past where it needs to be, and I'll bring it up into it. And bring it in this way, and then go the other direction. All right, that's my limit. My bead, and we'll just do it on all 4 sides. All right, I'll have to do a little massaging on these with some sandpaper, but that accomplishes, I don't know, I may want to go a little bit deeper than that. That's not quite as deep as I want to go. We may make another pass around there, but see the process. I like the way it's turning out. All right, I think that turned out pretty nice. Now what I want to do is just round over this edge all the way around here, get that sharp corner off of there, and I'm just going to use a round over bit again in the router. Let me get my router table set up, and we'll round that over. All right, we've got a 1/4 inch round over bit in here. This is the kind that runs on a bearing, so we'll just scoot around it and round that edge over. There, that gives it a nice edge all the way around, and these are about done. We're just going to hit them with the sander, make sure they're good and smooth on top, and clean up any little areas in this juice groove. I'll do that by hand, just come in here and kind of massage those out, and I think this will be ready to go. I think we're all done with these. These are nice and sanded, completely finished. The only really thing left to do, and I'm going to let the guy that's getting these do this, but they need to be treated with some mineral oil. That will kind of make this grain pop out. It'll make them look like totally different boards when you do that. I don't have any mineral oil. You want to use a food safe mineral oil on cutting boards, and basically you just let this stuff absorb in, and get as much into the wood as you can, and you will need to put more and more on it over time. And like I said, I just don't have any out here, but I know he's already got some because he's treating his countertops with it as well. And it'll darken these up and really make them pop. This walnut makes some pretty wood. Well, there you go, a quick and easy project out in the shop. Minimal tools in the woodworking shop. Basically, we used a table saw and joiner. The joiner was probably optional unless it was needed for my situation. If you were making up your own, you may not even need a joiner. And then just a router and router table. So basic woodworking tools that if you want to be doing woodworking, you probably need at least a table saw and a router. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Quick and easy, you can knock one of these out fairly quickly. It makes a nice little present, and without a whole lot of time and money invested in it. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, leave me a thumbs up if you like what you see. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you next time around.